Commercial Construction Coffee Talk fans, thanks for chiming in. My name's David Corson. I'm your host. I'm also the publisher and editor of Commercial Construction Renovation magazine. I hope everybody's having a great week. Columbus Day yesterday. Some people were off. I was working my tail off, trying to get caught up here. Thanksgiving's around, Halloween, Thanksgiving's around the corner. Boom, it's going to be Hanukkah, Christmas, New Year's, and boom, 2020. Here we come. In a really good mood too. I'm a sports guy for those of you guys that watch me. So University of Georgia, woo, #1 in the nation. Oh well, Roll Tide got rolled. Lost to Texas A&M. The Aggies had to text my guy down on my board at Brooks Herman late Saturday night and said, "Oh my God, what a game! Way to go Aggies!" In the 12th man, he was loving it. Text me right back. He goes, "Oh my God!" I go, "College Station is gonna be partying tonight." So. And boy, were they partying in Athens too, right down the road from me on 316 here. I'm just north of Atlanta. So actually, it was a great weekend for Atlanta sports. Bulldogs won. I think Tech won. The Braves won. The Braves are, they're in the playing the Brewers. I think even the Hawks in preseason won. So it was, it's a really good week in Atlanta, because us Atlanta's, I'm a transplant. So we haven't had the greatest, run with, games and championships and so forth. So, but the Bulldogs #1, they haven't been #1 since I think 1982. I heard on the radio the other day. So it's Bulldog Nation, and we got Kentucky coming in this weekend, looking to knock us off. So good practice week. Saturday, just another game, got to roll. But you're going to see those probably Bama and Georgia in the SEC championship game, so it should be great. And the best team win. I just want to see good sportsmanship and some hard-nosed football. So with that said, got an awesome person in flyover country out in Kansas City, Kansas, on the Kansas side, Kansas City, home of the Chiefs. I know they took it on the chin the other night, but still got an awesome team. Kelsey's got awesome. Listen. You're not going to win all the games, better lose them now than in the playoffs. That's all I got to say, so, but hey, that Bills team, that's a pretty good looking team, so regardless, our guest today is Aaron Kivett. He is Director of Partnerships for Newforma. That's a software collaboration tool that people use in construction. And with COVID and everybody working out of their homes and not doing site visits, everybody living on the web just like we are now, collaboration is the name of the game these days. So we like having these types of individuals on there because they can give us a good idea of the pulse, what's happening out there, keeping projects on time, on budget. And, and we obviously know with, labor shortages, with shipping and products, and there's so many hindrances that collaboration is key in maintaining the schedule, especially right now. If you're a retailer, you're trying to get your stores done before Thanksgiving because they're going to make all their money between Thanksgiving and Christmas. So it's that time of year, especially in retail, that people are under the gun because they got the circulars printed and they're backing it up and look at the timeline, and if the flooring doesn't get delivered in the right, so it's collaboration is key. So that's why we're having Aaron. Aaron, say hello from Kansas City.
Hello, everyone.
Come on, you can do better than that. Come on.
I know now. It's hard to meet. It's hard to match your energy level here. It's
like I said, I'm in a good mood, man. Listen, sometimes the Falcons stink it up. They won in England, and I'm a sports guy, so I played lacrosse and hockey in college, and so I always put sports and business together. So whenever I start my week off in Atlanta, when they win, I'm in a pretty good mood for a couple of days, But come the next weekend, everybody could lose. It could be I'd be bummed out, So yeah. So Aaron is out in flyover country in Kansas City, and here's how it goes, Aaron. The floor is yours. You got to tell your story. Where you grew up, got any brothers and sisters, where you went to school, and how you ended up at Newforma, and then we'll go from there. So the floor is yours. Tell us your story.
All mine. All right. So I've lived here in Kansas City my whole life. I'm only about 3 miles from the hospital I was born at. So that sounds pretty boring, but my career, family, I've traveled a lot. In fact, my time at Newforma, I visited, I think 46 of the 50 states over the
Nice.
past 10 years. So I've gotten to, while not fly over Kansas City a lot, I've flown out and in
Hmm.
quite a bit. But no, yeah, I've got a brother and a sister, and none of them live here anymore. They all got out of Kansas City. And my kind of background, I actually have a degree in history because I was always sort of into computers and software and things like that, and I was never interested in computer science or any of the sort of standard computer type degrees. So I spent my time going after something that I really liked, which hasn't really done all that much for me in my day-to-day business. But I've spent about 20 years in the industry now. The beginning of my career in the AC industry, I actually started out working for an architectural firm here in Kansas City.
Did you go? What did you study in school? Did you,
History.
history? That was your gig.
History.
So you went from
I
history to collaboration.
Well, I started off changing toner and printers and climbing under desks and wiring up Ethernet cables, and kind of spent my time in the trenches of IT. And really the firm that I worked at, we about 130 people, and just we had so many project information management challenges. And it actually kind of my dad actually is an architectural photographer, and my great uncle is a pretty well-known architect here in Kansas City, and he started a firm called Kivett and Myers that designed our sports complex here, the airport here, a lot of pretty major landmarks around town. But my dad started off doing architectural photography and hated the way that people printed his pictures, so he started a printing company, and the printing company did pretty well. But the connection here is my dad is kind of a techie also, and I've never actually really asked him how I got into this, but he built a database to run his printing company. And I learned kind of a lot from him about how to do that. And I started to take that knowledge at the firm that I was working at. And we built, using things I learned from my dad, built tools within that firm for managing RFIs and submittals and, other tools like that. So working my way up from changing toner to building databases, working with the teams at that firm, learning how they do construction administration, learning how they manage projects. I spent a lot of time working with those people, really, and I really learned sort of the day-to-day problems involved in managing projects for an architectural company.
Mm-hmm.
And that was a lot of fun, but I think one of the things we realized pretty quickly is that architectural firms are not great at building software. They're there to design buildings and do other things. And over time, I kind of worked my way up through the ranks, and a company called Newforma called and wanted to know if we'd be interested in setting up a meeting to hear a cold call, your standard cold call.
Mm-hmm.
And I had a meeting with them, and they showed us version 1 of the Newforma product, and it was terrible. I mean, it was like the worst possible thing you could imagine. Just didn't really work right. But the thing that had intrigued me at the time was a lot of the challenges that they had a nice PowerPoint deck that outlined the challenges of a design company. And all those challenges were challenges that we had every day on all of our projects. And I remember pretty clearly that that slide. But the problem is the product didn't actually do anything. And then about a year later, they started to call us again. And I didn't have any interest in talking to any of them because it's just such a bad experience from the last time. And I kept ignoring the sales guys' calls, and and then a few weeks later, I got called into a meeting with my boss, and he's there, and it's these stupid Newforma guys again. They'd gone above my head.
Well, they usurped you.
Yeah, they definitely went around me. And I looked at version 2, and it was pretty good. Like it was starting to, I think, deliver on what they had been talking about a year before. And I think the thing that had impressed me the most was the amount of progress that had been made in that relatively short amount of time. And we ended up buying the software the next day. I think we were the 24th customer of the company. And I spent a couple more years there at the architectural company, and I would work with the Newforma people very closely. Back then, when new versions of the software came out, we would do things like beta test for them, and they would actually send someone to Kansas City with to install the software and make sure everything works, and kind of it's very hands-on then.
Right.
Got to know a lot of the people there, and just really, I really identified with what they were trying to do. And I really like working with the design side of the construction industry. So, after my time at the architectural firm, I began reaching out to the places that were interesting to me, and Newforma was at the top of that list. So went to work there just about 11 years ago. And at Newforma, I've done kind of everything but accounting there. I've done training, I've done marketing, I've been deeply involved in the product side, which is where I am today, working on our partnerships and connectors. So that's kind of how things fit together. I don't know if any of that's interesting at all, but
no, hey, listen, it's the story. Listen, you never judge a book by its cover. You looked at the book first, it didn't look that appealing, but then once you got into a couple of chapters, it changed the thing, and now you're kind of most of the way through the book, and it's like, hey, man, this is pretty good. So it's like love at first sight. Sometimes it's not, and that's, it is what it is. So well, let's talk about the pandemic. I mean, everybody's lived through it. Thought it was going to be a couple of weeks or a month. I know I know everybody hates me saying this, but I was in Milwaukee. March Madness got canceled, and Tom Hanks got the bug, and everything got shut down, canceled, everything. I was supposed to go to see University of Denver lacrosse play Ohio State that weekend. It was a revenge game. I was going to Columbus to see the Pios play the Buckeyes, and that got canceled too. So, but everything kind of, it wasn't like 9/11, and it wasn't like the crash of 08, because everything just basically shut down. And that was the biggest difference. And no one knew what was going to happen, because the unknown was with the bug and COVID. And now here we are 18 months later. We're still free to have the stupid bug with us, but people learned how to adapt, use technology like we're using today. And looking at the 18 months that you went through Newforma, what are some of the things that you learned, not only with yourself, but your company, and how you saw the AEC community, go on there? Because a lot of people that are watching this episode, they're in that AEC sector in one form or another. So I'd like to get some of your insights on that, coming from the software side of things.
Yeah, I remember that. I think that's a kind of a good way to describe it. It wasn't quite like 9/11 or the crash, but I mean, it's certainly unique, I think, feeling. I was in uh, Washington, DC at an AIA conference. And I remember that because it was my last sort of trip before the whole thing happened. And
Hmm.
it was really kind of weird to be sort of at the beginning of all of that, that shutdown. It's yeah, it's hard to describe, but we all went through it. So
Hmm. And we're
don't
still
have to
going
describe
through it.
that. Still going through it. I think the way that it affected Newforma and software, it's sort of my perspective on how it affected the industry. Um, I think it showed how resilient things are. I remember the downturn of '08. Our customers were shedding employees like crazy.
Hmm.
And our software was sold as a essentially per user per year licensing agreement. And we were working with customers to renegotiate those contracts. Sometimes a few months, month or two after they'd been signed. And this situation was not like that at all, really.
Hmm.
I think companies, people really didn't know what to expect, but work didn't really seem to slow down on the design front significantly. I think that a big part of that is, I think a year ago everyone thought this would be over a lot faster.
Hmm.
um, so I remember my wife telling me she thought it'd be a week or two that everything would be shut down, and I thought it'd be a little bit longer, but I think that sort of just complete unknown of what the future would be like, but the sense of optimism um, did really help. And I think if people had known then that it would be as long as it is now, I think there would have been much different reactions. But I think that resilience, people really, I know within my company, within the companies that we work with, people really buckle down and look to find solutions to problems. Our software is client server based, so it doesn't really work that great when everyone goes working from home and the servers are still at the office.
Hmm.
Um, but we worked with customers to find solutions to that problem by, we worked on our software to improve performance over VPN and helped customers redeploy, environments through, remote desktop and all kinds of other, technical stuff. So I think there was just a really, really, um, really industry-wide effort to try and deal with it.
You don't know
I
how many
think,
conversations I had between, whether you were an end user or an architect or a contractor, engineering firm, developer, everybody was trying to figure out, okay, what if someone gets sick on the site? Who's going to be liable? How am I going to, or if they go home and they bring the bug back, he doesn't get sick, but he gets all his family sick. What's the liability? Okay, am I going to lose my company culture if I have people all working out of the house? How am I going to save that? Are we going to be more efficient? Being efficient and productivity was probably the scariest thing for everybody. I mean, I work out of my house, but I had offices in the past, and so I was already kind of remote anyway. But so many people were worried. Oh my God, are they going to get out of bed? Are they going to do any work? Now it's like, oh my God, meetings that took an hour and a half, now they're 20 minutes. And
yeah,
they finally found out that they actually can trust their people, that they do get up. They don't have to go through rush hour traffic. Now, Kansas City, I know it's traffic, but it's not like Atlanta traffic. So
no,
you don't have to go through rush hour. You're not burning gas. You're not, these big offices that people had. I know the real estate guys don't like me saying this either, but the bottom line is, some of those leases are going to be broken. They're going to be revamped, which is good for construction because it's renovation and, that whole new look. And a lot of people kind of reinvented their companies, and now they're allowing their employees to either work out of their house or do a hybrid, maybe a couple of days a week at home, a couple of weeks at the office. Some people have to be in the office, but I think that the COVID thing, I learned more about my business in the last 18 months than, I mean, I went from face-to-face print to pretty much digital, and you know, I didn't know I didn't know I had 15,000 pages of content. I had a digital magazine for all these years, but I just didn't realize I had all that. Now, I made that. There were some sleepless nights when I put out my last March, April issue last year, and then making a decision. Okay, what are we going to do? I just had my summit in January. February, I had my first face-to-face event in Coconut Grove, and here and then all of a sudden March came, and boom, my whole life was turned upside down. And so knowing that we all went through the same thing, I'm sure you had these conversations. Listen, my payments are going to have to be 180 days. That contract I signed, I can't. It's got to be revamped. Or whatever. Even myself, I was dealing with hotels that were trying to get me to sign for the following year. I'm like, look, you got to put a COVID clause in there. You got the CDC guidelines. And everything was all new. So these are the conversations I was having with people that I was going through, that they were going through with their own businesses. But the biggest thing was that people were still optimistic, and some people lost their jobs. Other people, they took on more roles. But as it's now 18 months later, I can talk to a lot of my friends and buds that I've known for, like I said, I talk to a lot of people that they're more productive. Their efficiency, they found a lot about their business. And I had a guy, a project management firm. He said, in one day, just doing these Zoom calls, that he was in Saudi Arabia, he was in Europe, he was in South America, he was in in Africa, did two walkthroughs in the States and Canada in one day. Pre-COVID, that would have taken him 2 weeks. Did it all in one day. Talk about efficiency, So this is, and a lot of businesses have just come to the conclusion, hey, I can do this. I don't need to do the T&E and all that stuff. And listen, I miss all my buds, believe me. I haven't gotten on a plane since last March. Last March is when I got on the last plane. This is what I've been doing. And and I'm a million miler. Do I care if I get on Delta again? No. But I like to see my buds? Yeah. But this is the reality of it. But that's the thing, is that so many people learned a lot. And that COVID thing, even though it was a bummer that it happened, it really pushed that envelope. And some of some of the firms that were going to get rid of dog stores, like in retail, they were going to close them anyway. This just kind of was a catalyst, So
yeah, it was a good excuse, I think, for some of those.
Yeah, listen, they had them on listen, I always tell people, look, whenever you see something in the newspaper, or any article about, oh, they're shutting down this. If you go about 4 or 5 paragraphs in that article, oh yeah, but we're opening up 30 new stores, or 5 more new hotels, or whatever it might be. So, retail, they always have to revamp themselves every 3 to 5 years. Hotels too, they got to put new paint or new carpet or whatever. They always have new prototypes coming in. Healthcare, it doesn't matter what they are. They're still always building. So through this whole thing, collaboration has been key to keeping business going. Whether you were an essential business or not, being able to network with your customers, network with your clients, keeping, if you didn't, in the beginning, if you didn't have a cell phone number or a Gmail account, boy, man, it was tough if you were in business development. It was, because they didn't want to pick up the phone or see an email saying, hey, all my plans are put on hold. You didn't want to say, so having a cell phone was like platinum jewelry. That was like gold mine. So, but that's like the most amazing thing that I think to this whole thing, that people learn so much about themselves, about the company, and that can-do spirit is still there. And that now we're coming at the tail end of it. And I think this thing is here to stay. A lot of the real estate that's empty, that they're going to revamp it. And that's a good thing, because that's more construction. They got to knock out walls. They got to put new paint in. They got to put new signage in. That's all good. That's all positive for us. So I always look at the glass half full, not half empty. And it just goes in cycles. So
I think we saw a pretty I'd say an increasing pace of technology adoption around the collaboration issue. if you think about 3 years ago, almost no one was using Microsoft Teams or Zoom. I mean, well, people were using Zoom, but now, Zoom's now a household word.
Yeah.
And, and most of our customers are using things like Microsoft Teams to collaborate. And, Newforma has been adapting to those as well. I think, thinking about commercial construction and sort of how COVID, things like that will affect it. I think it's really interesting to think about the change in patterns with people and how that will affect things. Like down the street from me, about 2 minutes, there's a little neighborhood grocery store and there's a little tiny little hardware store. And these sort of more local neighborhood places are now going to be closer to where more people are at home, working at home, day to day. They've just announced major new renovation of this tiny sleepy little mall that hasn't had anything happen to it in the last 25 years. So people definitely, I guess one way I kind of like model it in my head is like, fewer people are going to be coalescing downtown in an office every day and commuting, as you were mentioning earlier. And people might end up being much more spread out across the city. And I think that's an interesting opportunity for our industry to think about how the built environment will need to change to adjust to things like that.
I mean, look at restaurants. If you don't have a drive-through, you got to find out a way to have a drive-through or some sort of delivery. If you're a movie theater, how am I going to get people back in? Or do I go back to a drive-in or do a hybrid or whatever? If you're a shopping center and just like you said, if you haven't put a new roof on your building in the last 30 years and give it a facelift, now is the time to do it. If the hoteliers were smart, they did, as their hotels were closed during COVID, they put new carpet in and paint, all the stuff that was done behind the scenes that no one knew about. So when they actually did reopen, depending on what state you were in, they were ready to go and get clientele back in. So, and once again, that's all good for us. It's like, hurricanes. I hate saying it. I mean, devastation that people go through hurricanes. God knows I've gone through, plenty of them over my lifetime. But all the damage is done. All that stuff's going to get rebuilt. Whether it's cleanup effort, it's a positive thing. You always have to look at the positive. Hey, look, it's devastating, but we got to pick your bootstraps up. Got to keep going, and from a construction point of view, it's probably got to keep people working. Right now, labor's probably the biggest thing. I have a cleaning lady that does our house. And she said here in Georgia, her workers quit on her because they were living on the dole of the government. Between the unemployment, the state, the food stamps, they were making like $50,000 a year, so they quit. And then the governor here in Georgia, Governor Kemp, he took away the match, and then they were like, "Oh, Elena, we want to come back to work." She's like, "No way, you're fired. I'm not hiring you back. I'm hiring someone else back. You were sitting on there, doing nothing, gaining. You know what I mean?" So it's I was like, good for you, because I'm out here busting my tail, and these other people are sitting at home, and there's 11 million jobs. I just got a press release. I think there's 14 million jobs available. Go get one. And
but I think though, for some of these, like I think about restaurant jobs though, like, you and I get to sit at home and be on Zoom, and we don't have to be around people to do this type of work. So I think some of the incentive structures might have to change in order for these hotels to find
totally.
people.
Listen, they got to get these. They need help to. You don't know how many restaurants here. I mean, we just went to an Applebee's the other night, and there were like 2 people working in there. And the place was busy.
Yeah.
And but I was saying, I'm like, oh my God, they need help in here. I mean, the bartender is waiting tables, he's cleaning tables, and I'm looking, I looked at my son, I'm like, oh my God, these guys need help in here, but they, and everywhere you look, there's help wanted signs. So.
And I think some of that is the government assistance, but I don't know that explains everything. Like
no, I'm just saying, it was, it's just reality. You put all these things in a ball, and it is what it is.
Yeah, I think the pandemic has really affected the way that people look at their work and how they spend their time and what they do. And I think that is going to be a challenge for a lot of these businesses. That yeah, you might have to pay more in order to get people to work in a restaurant around people that don't want to get vaccinated or something
Yeah.
like that, because it's just yeah, the incentive structure, uh, to me, the incentive structure is out of whack, which explains a lot of those issues. I was in Boston last week, staying at a Marriott hotel, and the lobby in the restaurant in downtown Boston, they had probably 8 people on staff with 3 customers. Like,
Yeah.
they're not going to afford to be able to do that very long.
Yeah.
And the hotel was at 90% capacity. So it was actually a pretty good restaurant. So I don't
Yeah.
think it was the food. It's just things are out of balance, I think
You know what the
is
biggest thing though that I think that people realize that we're all work and no play makes Johnny a dull boy. I think that's from The Shining, way back when. For those of you who don't know when, it was a great movie. The book scares the heck out of me. So,
yeah.
but the biggest thing was people want to spend more time with their family, and it's not all work. There's other things to do with your life, and that now they found the time. They've been at home. And that I think has been one of the major things. People are much happier than they were in the glut of the pre-COVID, going just through the glut of work.
Yeah, I don't know about that though. My wife, I think, would like me to start
Well, I was going
traveling.
to say, I was on the road every week. So my wife's like, can't you go on the road? I'm like,
Yeah.
where would you like me to go? Okay. Where would you like me to go? Okay. I mean,
She liked it the first few months, and then it's like,
yeah.
when can you get out of the house?
No, my wife, she's like, can't you go on the road? I'm like, where would you like me to go? I've been to every place. I'm stuck here, so you beat me to it, because I was going to say, my wife, she'd tell you, you need to get out of here. You need to go to a trade show or something, because I walked 40 trade shows a year, and I was doing a cocktail party once a month, and my events. I mean, I was on the road, and COVID stopped, I was at home. And
Yeah.
so she would look at me, don't you have to go someplace? So I'm sure those conversations happen a lot. So, well,
Yeah.
if someone wanted to get in touch with you about Newforma and helping them, with project and collaboration and that, how would they get in touch with you?
Yeah, so our website is easier, newforma.com, and anyone who has questions or wants to know more can reach out to me. My email address is akivett@newforma.com. So pretty straightforward stuff. But we are really here to help architects and engineers be more efficient with their projects and help provide higher level of service for their clients, which a lot of which are well, hopefully readers of your magazine,
We hope so.
commercial developers, commercial owners, and yeah, this was fun. Thank you.
For those of you who want to get in touch with me, you can reach me at davidc@ccr-mag.com. We're always looking for projects. I look at everything. So it's like playing the lottery. If you don't buy a ticket, you can't win. You don't send me something, I can't look at it. We always find something very tough to get in the magazine, but I've got social media, we got newsletters, we do all sorts of stuff. So if you got a really cool project, send it to me. I always reply and say I got it. We look at everything. We always ask Aaron, our guests, to leave one positive thought or phrase as we go into finish the last quarter of 2021. So what would that be for you?
Mahomes will stop throwing interceptions.
Yeah, there you go. Hey, we got that in Atlanta. Matt Ryan, he'll be a Hall of Fame. No Super Bowl, lost Tom Brady, but still, he gets down there, he throws the interception. So I'm right there with you. But he does a good job on the State Farm commercial. So what can
I think he got acting lessons because
he's pretty
his
good.
acting is much better this year than last year.
Yeah, it looks he looks pretty good. The sneaker one that he's doing these days, looks pretty good. So, we got Aaron with the slick back dude look. So State Farm's, they're rebranding themselves too. So that was classic. That was one of my best ones on my podcast. Stop throwing interceptions. Hey, it's all about ball. If you got the ball, you can't get scored on. You give the ball up, you get scored on. That's reality.
Our defense isn't good enough to throw interceptions, that's for sure.
Yeah.
So
Well, anyway, for those of you out there in commercial construction coffee talk land, if you're looking for software or project collaboration, an architect, engineer, you know, end user, if you're looking for something or you want to bounce something off, give Aaron an email, catch him. He'll help you whatever he can. And as we move forward, Halloween's around the corner. You got Thanksgiving coming up, and boom, then it's December and the year's over. It's unbelievable that, you know, another year is going by. I'll be excited. Hopefully we'll all end it up on a positive note. And with that said, Aaron, pleasure meeting out in Kansas City. Go Chiefs at what are they? 3-2, 4-1, 3-2?
something like that.
Hey, there's a bunch of teams there. They're all there. Listen, I think there's one undefeated team. No Dolphins going to happen this year. There's too much going on. So enjoy the rest of the fall season out there in Kansas City. Got one of the best barbecue cities in the country, that's for sure. And all you out in commercial construction coffee talk land, as I always said, hey, listen, wash your hands, don't touch your face, make sure your surroundings, you're going to make it. You're going to be okay. You're going to make it to the end of the year and start 2022. So with that said, Aaron, say good night, or almost good night here on the East Coast in the evening's coming. So say goodbye to our listeners out in commercial construction coffee talk land from Kansas City, Kansas.
Good night.
Okay,
Goodbye.
And I'm going to sign off from Suwanee, Georgia, just below the Beaufort Dam on Lake Lanier, about 25 miles or so north of Atlanta. So with that said, thank you for signing in, and we will catch you next time on another episode of Commercial Construction Coffee Talk. See you next time, Aaron. Pleasure. All right.
Thank you.
All right, man. See you.
All right.